So welcome everyone to two post qualifiers. We're gonna have Dziam and Jack playing against the brawlers Barles and the Valas teaming up. Cape of Storms and Forest Pond will be the maps for Dziam and Jack. Coast to Mountain and Natsakotra for brawlers. We'll have Berbers, Tatars, Italians, Japanese, Mayans, Sicilians, Turks, Celts, Goths, Incas will be their pool 2 civs. Franks, Lithuanians, Britons, Vikings, Chinese will be the civs for the brawlers, and Burgundians, Burmese, Cumans, Aztecs, and Bulgarians will be their pool 2 civs. In a first look, I like Barles and Valas civs a little bit better, but I think it's just better to go into the games and see what these players bring us here in the qualifiers. So let's jump into game number 1. And with that, oh hello, some Polish chat over here on the screen. That's something that we might actually see, because 3 out of these 4 players is actually Polish. So we got Barles, potentially the best Polish player in yellow to the south, as Aztecs. To the left of him is going to be Valas playing as Franks in red. To the north, it's going to be Jack, another Polish player, in green, and to the right side it's going to be Turks for Dziam in blue. With that being said, Turks and Mayans, it's an interesting combination. Before post-Imperial, I actually like it more than Aztecs and Franks, because Turks can have just as good knights as Franks, even though their eco isn't necessarily as good. But they also are better killing archers in feudal age with their scouts. And lastly, what is more important, I believe, is that Mayans are far better on the green side over here. With that being said, we're gonna have our green player on the left side. This gold mine is heavily exposed, hurts quite badly for a Mayan player. Other than that, this is an alright map, but this gold mine is actually pretty bad. On the south, we're gonna have front gold over here, but more importantly, good gold at the back for Valas. Safe stone berries are not so great, but other than that, a volleyball map is there. Right side is going to be Barles, coming in yellow, with a beautiful back gold over here, volleying off the base with berries. And on the north, we will finally have Dziam in yellow, coming in with a reasonable gold mine, but a very open south over here. With that, Dziam and Barles are both experienced Black Forest players as well. I guess that's an interesting trivia about these players, that we get some Black Forest experts over here, as we already have a 4 on wood for Jack. We'll have a Scouts vs Archer civ on both sides. For now, Deer push for now from Dziam, as he's free on wood, no surprise about that. He will most likely play Scouts. And on the other side, we'll obviously have Scouts from the Frankish player, and probably some kind of archers. From Barles, I would say that you might open men-at-arms, because you are up against the Scouts player, but there is no guarantees about that one. Drush archers would be a bad idea, I believe, because you need archer numbers. So it either has to be straight archers or maybe men-at-arms archers, but then those men-at-arms have to hit our blue player over here. Speaking of that, Barles actually sees the barriers being exposed, which means that men-at-arms play is completely legitimate for him. In this one, some early walls on the left from Dziam. No walls just yet for Jack. He also didn't push in a single deer. Instead, he's scouting his opponent over here for now camping this hill. That's a fast loom from Dziam, so he's playing this one safe, probably because he sees the eagle lurking for his villager. And indeed, the reason why loom comes in here is because the eagle was trying to pick off the villager. Will be unsuccessful, didn't even damage the villager, so you can just wall this one off for now. But here comes the aggression from Jack and Dziam, and they will just go for a will. This is something that you can do in 2v2, team up the 2 scouts and try to pick off a villager. Now, this eagle went down to 4 HP, which is a disaster for Jack, but he can heal it up, and that's extremely important. They did try to idle some of that villager, in fact, almost killed it. And that caused some chaos inside Valas' eco. But at the end of the day, this worked out fairly well for Barles and Valas, especially if they pick off that ego, because that ego is so low that I don't think it gets home. You see, the scout is almost in. It takes 2 hits, but I think this ego is not going to be able to do much. Instead, it turns back so that it at least can hit this scout, but that won't happen either. But the idea is good. You can team up 2 of your scouts and kill a villager very early on. So that was a good idea. Valas had a nice defense, but his feudal is delayed. So that actually did impact him. You see that this is a 22 pop feudal, which is somewhat underwhelming with Franks. Usually they go for 20 pop feudal. With that, Aztecs will be in a yellow. And we already have a Drush coming in here. Speaking of Drushes, there was no villager lost from Dziam, but apparently he has to evacuate his berries. So we will end up with a Drush Archers play from our Aztec player going up at 23 villagers. And for now there is 1 villager repairing that mill, but that mill actually costs quite a lot of wood to repair. You see that the well count is actually dropping, or the wood count is actually dropping quite steadily, and that hurts because obviously you want to be able to afford a stable, you want to be able to afford farms, so the fact that you have to keep repairing that the mill isn't ideal. Also, you will run out of herdables faster than you want, so this Drush is already doing damage. Denying those berries is a fairly decent achievement. Over here you see that Dziam is up to feudal age, but he can't afford a stable, he won't be able to afford farms, and there is just no wood for him that he can work with. So this Drush actually crippled the build order quite heavily here. He's still floating quite a lot of food, so he will be able to keep producing villagers and make a couple of scouts, but he's gonna have to clean this up fast. With that, we're gonna have front walls for Valas over here. Interesting stable spot given the fact that he's walling himself like this, but I guess he just wanted to get that stable up as fast as possible because he's already late to feudal age. His teammate is also going to be late to feudal age, and the real beneficiary of this one is Jack, because he just went for straight archers, and with that, he's going to have some archer numbers advantage over a yellow player in here. So once there is like 3 scouts, they'll move in to clean this one up, and the berries will be reclaimed by Dziam. So, with that, we're gonna have the archers coming in from our green player, double range archers for now with mines, no blacksmith just yet. This scout will actually be gated outside, so it's not able to get in. Spearman defending this part, so walls will be done very soon by Jack. Scouts just now coming in for Valas, who will almost be fully walled as well. Look at this nice and easy rectangular base for our red player, looks pretty neat. As we got our yellow player in here. So, scouts now on the way for Dziam, and the real advantage that you get from these is the extra pierce armor, so you can actually pick off archers very easily with them, and you see that the first archer is just now coming in for bars. That's the problem. That's the problem with the Drush archers here in 2v2, I believe, that you delay your archers so much, especially against Mayans that can easily afford a double range archer production. It is a relatively problematic situation because you will fall behind archer numbers quite heavily. We got 4 red scouts right now with the extra HP from Franks. Nice micro over there from Dziam as he takes down 1 and then disengages. And we got 3 scouts running back home. And this is the counterattack with the archers. Could actually hit the back of this wood line, but other than that, Valas is fully walled, so it shouldn't really accomplish much more. But you see that there is barely any archers from Barles, especially not close to here, where it could help clean this one up. And spearmen archers are always hard to defend with the scouts player. Let's see when Valas reacts. Oh, failure. Massive failure in here. So they run in here. The scouts will actually run past the TC fire. They're quite weak, so they might just end up losing their lives against villagers. But still, that's already damage done on our red player. 1 villager goes down, and the gold mine has to be evacuated. So the value is there. The value is absolutely there, and especially considering that Valas went for early gold, he wanted to go for early Castle Age over here. He's going to clean up the archers, which is good value for those scouts, but still, it was one Voyager picked off, not necessarily ideal, and the next wave of archers is already coming in. It looks like Valas will reroll this one before the pause would actually allow more archers to break in here. Other side, however, we also have a disaster. We don't talk about this one, as Dziam didn't lose a single Voyager, you see it over here, but the archers did break into his base with the support of the men-at-arms. Thankfully, there's defensive tower to kill the men-at-arms, and there is going to be scouts finishing off the archers. So, with that, we are gonna have one wood line evacuated here by Valas, and oh, that actually could be a nice find for Valas if he picks off a couple of archers with those scouts, but actually won't commit to that. And with that, we are gonna have almost full walls for Dziam. He had to make a defensive tower on his gold mine, which is a shame because this is a well-defendable gold mine. If you finish these walls, this wouldn't have been necessary, but he's playing half open. These scouts could actually find some value over there if they get in there. Blacksmith behind for Valas. And with that, we're gonna have double range archer production for Barles. He's sitting on 8 archers, but not necessarily consistent archer production over here. Castle Age coming in right now for him, probably idled his ranges to afford a better Castle Age time, and that will be successful. So he's gonna beat his opponent, Jack, into Castle Age by about half a minute or so. Archers getting through the walls over here, and more importantly over here with the support of the scouts. This palisade gate is always the weak part of the wall, so that hurts the most for Valas. And now the scouts and archers will actually hit the back of this gold mine once again. They won't be able to idle that many Voyagers, but I think these scouts running in here is more important. Fairly strong scouts, so they could find this Voyager, but apparently they do not. So for now, what you can do is just idle these farmers or potentially try to get through here and hit the gold mine. You already see that Valas has to run for additional wood. It looks like Dziam decided to run past the TC, but that was a bad decision. They will find this Voyager. Wait a second. Wait a second. They saw this Voyager, but they didn't actually pick it off. Also, the archers on the left broke through the walls, which means there is a massive gap as well. Now, another Voyager gets picked off, and now it is 11 archers inside the base of our red player. Castle Age, however, 1 minute faster for Barles. +1 defense already in here for him, +1 defense coming in for Jack. And with that, we are gonna have 11 archers against 9. However, these will soon be crossbows, so if you want to take this fight as Jack, you gotta take it right now. And if you are Barles, you gotta make sure that you don't lose your archers because you want crossbows soon. Second stable on the way for Valas, who's also faster to Castle Age than Dziam and Jack. And that is going to be concerning because this army now is trapped in here. And we're gonna have another Voyager picked off here, so Valas' eco is going to be hurt quite badly, but at the end of the day, all these archers from Jack will go down, which hurts very badly. He's gonna be down to 10 archers, and obviously with mines it's not really tough to replenish them, but still, losing archers like that actually hurts quite badly. With that, triple range archer production for Jack, and remember that he's gonna have Thumbring accessible, whereas Aztecs do not. Fast ballistics on the way for Barles, and we're gonna have ballistics coming in soon. We're gonna have Dziam with Turks soon reaching Castle Age. Obviously here, in this stage of the game, the Franks will be a much better civilization than the Turks are in terms of cavalry value. But the Turks aren't necessarily as bad as many people think. They have +2/+2 knights. Their eco isn't that good though. As we are gonna have the crossbows coming in for Jack. Goes for fast university ballistics as well. Needs a market to balance his eco, I assume. And that's a bit of a mismanaged ballistics, because if you take a look at those resources, he made the university, but he can't afford ballistics. So that means that he's just unable to use that university to anything. And now here comes Barles, picks off 4 Voyagers from the gold mine of his opponent. That is a disaster over there. That is a massive disaster. Big fight over here in the middle. Ballistics already in for Barles, and that matters so much right now. There is light cav from Dziam, which actually soak up some arrow fire, but still, currently, Jack isn't able to get to this army over here, and he has to evacuate his gold mine completely. And for now, Barles and Valas are just able to keep up the pressure on Jack's gold mine. You see that all the ranges are idle. Still no ballistics in because he can't afford it. And it seems like, unless there's a massive cavalry reinforcement coming in here from Dziam, which is only +1/+1 knights, Barles and Valas might just win this game right here, right now. Because there is no gold income for Jack. His archer numbers are now very low. There is no ballistics. And there is also better knight numbers, 8 knights against 7 over here, but more importantly, actually there is no +2 defense for Valas as well, so it's a little bit of a potato. He needs +2 defense himself, otherwise those crossbows will eat them. Nice micro over there from Dziam and Jack, they're behind by 8 villagers. Still no ballistics, that just came in, but now the mine archers should be dominating the Aztec archers over here, but the knights are gone. So once again the gold mine has to be evacuated, and there is more units trickling through the map. That's the problem that Jack is facing. Still, he might be able to hold this gold mine over here for now. He doesn't have an alternative gold mine to go to be honest. Like, he might actually try to just go here and try to smuggle these villagers out. Seems like he's going to be able to hold though, but it's a 15 villagers lead now for our yellow player and our red player combined. 3 TCs boom for Barles. So he's just adding range number 3. 2 TCs for Valas, 2 TCs as well for Dziam, but Jack is 1 TC, so they gotta go for a super aggressive play here. Luckily the mine army is cheap, so being 41 villagers compared to 55 is not that big of a deal. It's still an advantage for our yellow player, but it's not as big as it could possibly be against another Civ. So, with that, we're gonna have the 3 TCs up for Barles and Valas as well. There is only 2 TCs for Dziam, and as I said, 1 TC for Jack right now. Goes for triple ranges. The problem is that he's up against triple ranges as well. As long as he doesn't have Thumbring, the Aztec crossbows are just as good as the Mayan crossbows are. And now, it looks like Barles and Valas are hitting the back of this wood line over here. Dziam will know about this one because he lost a knight here, but he hasn't reacted just yet. Sees the army now and jumps into the TC immediately. This gold mine is also somewhat exposed, but a +1/+2 knights now, a +2 defense as well from our red player. Those +1/+2 knights could do quite a lot of damage, but it's again 2, 3, 4 villagers going down in a matter of seconds. This is already good value for Barles and Valas. They killed 4 villagers without losing a single unit, and right now they're just waiting for a crossbow reinforcement to come in. This could be a costly fight though for Barles and Valas because those Mayan crossbows now have the hill with +2 defense. So knights chasing down the archer army over here. Both players just using their knights right now as a meat shield. Still, the value is there for Barles and Valas, so it's 30 villagers lead right now. It's partially the fact that they have a bigger boom. They are 3 TCs each, whereas their opponents have 3 TCs combined. But it is also attributed to the fact that they killed villagers left and right. So you see, it's 4 villagers lost by Dziam, 11 by Jack, and Valas lost 5 villagers, that's sure. But after that, he actually didn't lose a single villager after that disaster fuel age. Here comes the archer micro though, as this is a fairly decent cleanup from Jack over here. Kind of annihilated the army over there. That's a lot of dead bodies against just 3 crossbows picked off. And now those crossbows will take the hill. They also have +2 defense. Still, at this point, I think Barles and Valas doesn't have to be super aggressive. They just need to stall things out, especially with that early Imperial Age coming in here for Barles. Barles is playing really good recently, so really credits to him for doing this. With that, we're gonna have 3 TCs, as I said, for him. So it's not like his eco is gonna be weak, and that's the beautiful thing about this imp. He's gonna reach Imperial with like 85-ish villagers, which is perfectly satisfactory. Knight numbers right now are fairly close. Crossbow numbers are actually better for Jack, but as I said, Barles doesn't have to take engagements. He just needs to camp a hill like this one and make sure that he's not getting pushed off from there, or just fall back home. Looks like we're gonna have some monks out here for Barles, probably to just heal his teammates' knights, as a good teammate does. He doesn't have any upgrades on them. And with that, we're gonna have a siege workshop here to try and hold off those crossbows. It's definitely not ideal that Barles is losing some crossbows over here, but he just needs to hold on for 1.5 more minutes. He's gonna get +2 defense. It looks like they commit to this fight, at least temporarily. They want to bring in a couple of monks to convert some knights as well. But for now, it's just a slow grind over here, making sure that they hold this hill, especially with +2 defense, firing down hills. Dziam is getting husbandry, so he actually wants to close in on those crossbows a little bit easier. And really the monks are helping push away the knights here, because you don't want to lose 2 of them to conversions. 40 seconds away from Imperial is Barles, and I don't know how Valas or how Jack and Dziam will actually counter an Imperial Age Aztec player. Even without Tumbling, those will be Arbs, and that could already be very, very troublesome, even though there is no siege from Barles. So, yeah, it's Arbalasts, but how is he going to finish off his opponent? Imperial Age in, and if you are Jack and Dziam, you want to take this fight right now before that Arbalast actually kicks in. It looks like they won't, and we're gonna have 40 Voyagers lead for Barles' team. Crossbow numbers are slightly better for Jack, but it's gonna be Bracer Arbalast chemistry. And with that, we're gonna have, as I said, Arbalasts now. This is not the fight that they can take anymore. This is not a winnable fight anymore for our cold color team. And you already see that Barles is actually on stone. And even though you don't have siege, if you just drop a castle on the front, that's already going to be sufficient. And I feel like this fight decides the outcome of the game. Some of the Arbs take the hill here. There's already a couple of Voyagers being picked off as well. A Mangonel comes in here, lands a huge shot. And with that, we're gonna have Arbs cleaning up most of the knights over here, and the problem is that neither Barles or neither Jack or Dziam are actually close to Imperial. That's the main problem. So with that, this game should be over at this point. In fact, Barles could go for a much more aggressive castle. He's gonna go for a safe castle here, but he could drop it over here as well. GG is scored by Jack and Dziam, and Barles' team takes over in game number 1. Fairly convincing win, I would say. That was mainly fueled by the fact that they just reached Castle Age faster. And keep in mind that inside the base of Valas, they killed about 10 archers from or a green player, and that hurts so much. Because if you lose those 6, 7, 8 archers there before there are crossbows, you fall behind in crossbow numbers so badly. That's the trade-off that you're always taking with feudal age engagements. You gotta be careful with your archer numbers. Losing too much for just a couple of Voyagers killed might actually backfire, because suddenly you fall behind the military really badly. So, Dziamdziak+JackK, I think they had slightly better civilizations for this stage of the game, but it turns out that they weren't able to finish off the game here with their feudal age advantage. So we're going into the first home map of Jack and Dziam, Cape of Storms, or Forest Pond. And it's gonna be apparently the overlays are wrong. I'll have to double check on this one. Yeah, the overlays are wrong actually. We do have a Team Islands and Cape of Storms as the home map. So it's not Forest Pond, it's Team Islands. Don't be misled. I was confused for a moment, but it's Team Islands. So it's not Forest Pond, Cape of Storms, it's Team Islands, Cape of Storms. And with that, we'll jump into the next game over here. So we're going to Team Islands, ladies and gentlemen, to what is somewhat interesting Islands generation over here. This is, what is this even? What is this generation? Anyways, we're gonna have Dziamdziak playing as Italians in green and Sicilians in blue. It's gonna be the Mediterranean combo over there. So on the other side, we will have Barles and Valas. Barles will be playing in yellow Vikings, and Burmese will be for the civilization for Valas. So landing is definitely possible from our red player and potentially our blue player over here. That's probably the concept over here. Burmese actually is a solid-ish civilization for this situation. One of the things that you get is that you get the lumber camp upgrades for free, and as like a secondary water save, if you don't have anything else, civilizations that have reasonable wood income can make sense. So Celts, for example, can make sense. You ideally want a civilization that at least has some workable galleons late game, because if your landing fails and this somehow goes to post-imperial, then you gotta have some good ships working for you. So let's take a look at Burmese ships for a moment. Burmese actually have fairly decent ships, believe it or not. They do have galleon, they are missing fast fire ship, which hurts, and heavy demo as well. But they do have galleon with careening dry dock, missing shipwright, but they do have bracer. So Burmese actually has reasonable galleons. It's not great, but in case you need galleons in late Imperial, if your landing fails, you will still have something to work with, I would say. So, with that, I still prefer Sicilians and Italians over Vikings and Burmese over here. Vikings could actually play a fast castle build here, we'll soon find out. It's gonna be 5 on wood for now with a side dock play, so it looks like it's gonna be a galley play from our yellow player. Isn't actually able to find the shorefish, or I just didn't spot it, because apparently he finds a tile out there. Other side, we do have 4 on wood with a back dock. If it's a back dock, it is going to be probably a landing here from our red player. Usually you go back dock for landing, because that way your fishing eco is a lot safer. Double front docks from our cold color team in here. So it is still possible to be landing, but if it's actually double landing, then I prefer the team that has back dock, because the back dock actually is slightly better for landings, I would say. Now, here's the deal. Since these side docks are actually pretty far away from Jack, who's gonna be the fire galley player, he's gonna have time to mass his galleys, because if there is one player that plays water from Dziam's team, that's going to be Jack. So he's got Italians, he is front dock, which means it should be fire galley opening from him. But since this dock is so far away from him, I believe that Barles is gonna have absolutely no issue walling off, or absolutely no issue dropping docks over here. With that, we're gonna have Deer Push coming in here for Barles. No surprise about that one. You try to maximize your efficiency at the beginning of the game with Deer Push. There's nothing else that you can do with your scout anyways, so you might as well do that. Looking at Barles' base for a landing, this is actually a very, very good and well defendable base in the case of a landing. Easy wall off all over the place. Gold mine, stone mine, very safe. And that is a transport from Valas already. Could be even Burmese men-at-arms, to be honest, because Burmese men-at-arms would be slightly stronger than standard, and that would be a reasonable opening. Loom coming in just now for our blue player. And we got no loom for Jack. He's gonna go loom just now. Click up the feudal age. So with that, we are gonna have transport out for Valas and 2 villagers. So it's gonna be a forward, but we don't see a barracks back at home, which means that it's either going to be men-at-arms landing over here, or he's gonna make the barracks here, but he's not going to do anything with it. I would think that it's better if you make your barracks back at home, and you can afford it if you're Valas, and you should, because you are getting close to like 50%. Here is the barracks indeed. I like that he's using that as part of his wall as well. So with that, we're gonna have the second dock up here for Barles, as he's gonna play galleys. 3 on gold, no surprise about that one. Either he's not really voting himself, so he apparently isn't prepared for landing. And this is gonna be a landing, I believe, for what is gonna be a tower rush, because it's 4 villagers being pulled in here. Now one goes back, but at the end, there is still 3 villagers over here. Some of them will be sent to hunt. A bit of a confusion there for Dziam. I'm not sure how many villagers he actually wants to send, because he really started moving out with 4, made me think that he actually wants to land and go towers. Or, well, in this case, it's gonna be donjon, because Sicilians don't have towers. And honestly, it's not a bad idea. Donjon rushing your opponent. Indeed, it's 3 villagers, which is too much for a forward. You don't have a great eco if you send 3 villagers. So, what you gotta do is really use those 3 villagers. The reason why you send at least 2 is because if one gets killed, there is still a second one to build buildings. But sending 3 is a bit of an overinvestment, I believe. Stable coming in right now. As you see, Barles will spot this one immediately after the landing occurred. So, one of the nice things that you have with Sicilian stables is that the scouts that you pop out will be more resistant to spearmen, and you see that already forces Barles to make spears. But guess what? There's another landing over here as well. Nice reaction from Jack, very, very nice reaction. Was that stable in immediately, so it was a stable landing as well from Valas, but that stable isn't going to do much. Those scouts are already trapped in there, and you see that Jack is tracking the movement of that transport. Now those villagers do have loom, but it's only one villager fighting. It's only one villager fighting, so this lady might just die. We're gonna have some scouts already coming in here from Dziam, so that's the difference between the 2 players. Jack isn't really being pressured by this landing. He had to commit some time to clean it up, or at least make sure it's safe. Whereas Barles has to do a defensive tower already, and you see that now Valas is the one going for the spearman to defend his teammate. But the mobility advantage will be on the side of those scouts. One fire galley from Jack will find the fishing eco of Valas, whereas there is no galleys just yet from Barles pushing the fishing eco, which means that right now there is a fairly decent eco lead for the team of Jack. They're ahead in 2 villagers, but that should be 4 basically if those fishing ships go down. So fire galley now out for our Sicilian player. He sees that there is galleys over there, and the scouts will just run past the walls over there, and they will hit the wood line of Valas. These are Burmese spearmen, by the way, so they're actually pretty tanky. Well, not tanky, but they actually deliver quite a big punch with that poke. So it looks like Jack wants to make sure that landing is not going to be possible. You see that he's spamming outposts everywhere, but this landing is pretty much gone from Valas, whereas this landing is still doing damage, as the transport ship actually is a little bit more resistant to damage, so that's why those spearmen can't really do much against it. Scouts will actually jump the gold mine potentially from Barles in this one. Still, you gotta have to have galleys now if you are Jack, otherwise you're gonna be in trouble against those galleys. Still, now the scouts will actually hit the wood line of Barles over here. Hasn't lost a single villager just yet, but soon will, unless he quick calls these around. In this one, the landing will still occur here, and I wonder what these wheels are up to. Maybe they just want to bash their way through these walls. If they get through these walls, the stable once again will be useful, but they are still around. Fairly low HP, but they are around. Villager over here goes down to the scouts. Another villager could go down on the walls. We got galleys though, sinking the fishing eco of Dziam, and that pretty much equals out the ecos, because even though Barles is losing some of his villagers, he's got an untouched fishing eco and a dominant fleet. Now here's the deal though. Galleys should be better than fire galleys, however, you have to micro them more. And when you're actually being raided by scouts, that actually is a lot harder than microing fire galleys. Still, you see that the docks are found. Jack sees this, so he's gonna have to return. Villagers once again, still inside the ships, might actually jump out on the other side. Scouts still have reasonable HP, and they will pick off the scout of Barles, and more scouts are coming in. The transport will just transport them through, and remember, this transport carries 10 units, so you can just jump in with the villagers and the scouts and get out on the other side. Galleys now coming in, and these galleys might actually help out opening this wall. If you actually target maybe this tile with the galleys, you can actually break through it, and there's a range from Valas, something that Jack doesn't see. Jack has insane vision, look at this. The only place in the map that he doesn't see is where the archer range is at. So that's actually a nice position. There's going to be a range as well for Dziam. And currently, the scouts are still finding targets, or at least they want to find some targets. It looks like Valas will be fully walled, so you can still use those fire ships to get through those walls, but that's not going to be an easy thing to do. And 2 archers pop out. This completely catches Jack off guard, since he has no defense back at home. Absolutely nothing. So he's got to fight with Voyagers against archers, but that's already a disaster, so to say. And the galleys, simultaneously, will try to out-micro his fire galleys over here. The fishing ships are still there for him. Castle Age coming in for both of our warm color players, but it looks like we do have a hole, an overchop, or what happened here? Oh man, this is the second time in this set that Valas has a massive hole on his wall. The scouts just flood in, and with that, once again, Valas is scrambling to defend his base. Nice quick pause so far from him. The berries might actually be in danger. There is still a hole over there, but apparently the scouts do not really care. And that's actually a nice little trap over there. The scouts take quite a lot of arrow fire from the TC. 2 scouts go down. And this is a somewhat underwhelming push here from Dziam. On the other side, it is a big villager rebellion here from Jack as he goes for tower on that range, which would pretty much prevent the archers from being able to break out. But still, these scouts are pretty much gone now. Even though the spearman deals less damage against that, at the end of the day, they will clean these scouts up. Castle Age is in for Barles as the first player. He's gonna have War Galley in a matter of moments, and he's gonna be with War Galley against just Fire Galleys here, which is a great scenario for him. Our red player, Valas, is also up. And the biggest problem is that Jack is so much delayed into Castle Age. He will eventually finish off these villagers, or at least that's what he's hoping in. But he's nowhere close to Castle Age. They're actually going to lose water very easily here. You see that the galleys are just now coming in. The transport ship is going to go down. Look at how much damage. This is barely taking damage, this transport. As the war galleys are now in. Still, the transport is going to slowly sink, but this is a very slow sinking. Look at how much damage this transport is able to tank. Makes me wonder if Sicilians actually could use transports as sort of damage-absorbing units in war galley fights. Because for this much damage absorbed, the cost of the transport isn't that great, to be honest. So, really, just like you can add rams to soak up galley fire, transports here might actually make sense because they're so tanky against the war galleys. Still, it is right now 13 fire galleys with 2 minutes away from Castle Age for Jack versus 23 war galleys over here. And guess what, with Castle Age, for Valas, he can make an elephant and try to break out with that through the walls. You got the fire galley slowly finishing off the dock of Valas, so he will be without the dock. But he's got a foothold on the opponent's island, and that is what matters the most. Another stable comes in here. Jack, as I said, has vision about this one, and once again, Jack will try to wall this in. But still, the main concern is that, as you see, Valas is walling this around. And the reason why he's walling it around is because he wants to make sure that his opponent can't fully wall this one in. Or at least it takes quite a lot of time to do that. And the elephant is slowly breaking out of here as well. War galleys clean up the water. Wherever I look, I'm starting to feel that Barles' team is just taking over massively. But you shouldn't underestimate the knights coming in here from Dziam. Because this is looking ugly, but this could look even uglier. So, with that, now the gold mine could be very exposed to manganose, same for the wood line over here, and Barles doesn't really have anywhere to go if he gets pushed. So, this is still tricky, as there's a knight coming out right now for Valas now, another knight comes in, monastery as well, and the thing is that Jack isn't really walled. That's the difference between Jack and Barles. Barles is at least walled, even though those walls won't hold for long. Vorgali now in for Jack, and Jack is gonna have quite a lot of fire ships here in a moment, and also quite a lot of war galleys, so Jack coming back to water was a pretty nice thing to do. Triple monastery push here from Valas. The thing is that if that TC goes up, the monks won't accomplish much, so that's not really going to help. And now the knights are in, so maybe Jack and Dziam are slowly coming back into this one, because their eco is only behind by 7, This push actually does have siege supporting it, even though the siege is actually just attacking a house. On the water, we have fireships and Vorgalis cleaning up the fleet of Barles. He wasn't paying attention to those because he's busy microing his monks against this aggression over here. This is a scary horde though. Triple monks or triple monastery monks with double stables, and this stable here could also be opened up with an elephant, and then they could push this side too. So Jack is sort of in a trouble right now when it comes to, you know, staying alive, so to say, and that could potentially hurt his naval production, but the same applies to Barles. So both water players are suffering from sick damage, but here's the knights, and the knights will just dive in on the mangonels. That's a disaster for Dziam. That could actually lose them the game because they need to push Barles. Losing 2 mangonels like that hurts really badly because every second could matter when there's already knights running around, and Dziam could very well lose villagers here as well. For now, this war galley fleet is actually going to go down. It looks like we'll have a transition to longboats now from Barles, but finally his fishing eco will be destroyed. Knights now picking off one villager and a couple of spearmen. Dziam doesn't really have an answer to that, and if they hit this wood line, Dziam's eco is going to fall apart. So you see that these villagers might need to rush up a TC over here and some crazy house walls to prevent disaster from happening. No ballistics for Jack, which means that even though he finds a nice wood line over here to raid with the ships, he's unable to kill a lot of villagers, and for now it looks like the siege push pretty much stalled out over here. And that starts to become worse and worse once again for Jack and Dziam, because this landing will soon start doing more damage than this landing will. And on the water, once longboats come out, suddenly Barles actually starts dominating the set over here. And I'm not sure what these war galleys are up to, but they could definitely harass this wood line over here, and that would cause Woodingham issues for Jack. Knights now coming in though, and they hit Valas, and they just break through the walls here. It is worth rewinding this absolute massacre, because indeed they just break through the walls and they just run into the base of our red player. It looks like Valas' reaction here was really slow. Like, this is the moment when he realizes, oh shoot, I'm getting attacked, and the best thing he can do is just try to save the rest of his eco with some stone walls, but that's already quite a lot of villagers dead from him, so villager count is still dead even. Valas will actually be playing with 5 monasteries. He's got 2 back at home and 3 on the opponent's island. So we will have a 3rd TC coming in here for Barles, securing that additional gold mine. This TC is under attack right now. Jack actually wants to bring in some scouts to fight this one. Remember that Valas is distracted. Valas is distracted cleaning this one up. So this is the moment where the scouts come in. Monks not being microed just yet. They do have sanctity, but they are completely ignoring these scouts until they actually close the distance. And the scouts are just slowly cleaning those monks. Still, they actually cleaned up, and now the mangonels could go down. More importantly, the villagers could go down. And those villagers are extremely important because they build the forward buildings. Still, I think this is gonna be enough for Jack indeed to keep one mangonel alive, but look at this, Valas is dropping in villager count, he's down to 61, still better than our green players' eco numbers. Right now, Vorgalis will try to free these docks so knights can come in from the other side as well. In the meanwhile, we still have 3 TCs for Barles, and now his eco is pretty much untouched, although soon knights could actually come that way. It looks like he's sending the monks this direction to try and go for some conversions. Defensive castle in here for Jack. If that goes up, oh, 2 villager castle here. Okay, someone's gonna have a doubt castle here, and I believe that's gonna be Valas. Indeed, he cancels it. Although Jack doesn't really have anything to stop that knight with, or the mangonel. So with that, both of these castles will be cancelled for a time being. Army-wise, it's actually still pretty close. Knights now don't really want to get converted, and one of the conversions will actually occur here. Not ideal for Dziam, but once again, he might actually jump on the monks, and that's a lot of knights from him. That's a lot of knights with the landing, and they intercept the monks before they could actually run for a TC. And with that, that's all the monks going down. And Valas' eco here is far from being safe. In fact, it's getting raided super, super heavily. There's the castle going up for Jack as well. He sent the villager to kill the mangonel, and with that castle going up, this forward is dead. This forward is still alive, but it's not really helping at all. And it looks like Barles+Valas, the landing is gone, although you see that Valas is still trying. He shouldn't move his mangonel here because he's going to reveal the position of that stable. Indeed, he turns back. For now, these knights are still rampaging the eco of Valas. Valas is still 66 villagers though, so credits to him. Because he still has a better villager count than Jack, while he lost 19 villagers, even though he killed 18, so it somewhat makes sense. Over there, castle up for Barles+Valas to stall this push out, so this could actually end up being a long game. This is, as I said, why you want good water civs, or like civs that are at least moderately reasonable on water, even as your secondary landing civilization. Because there's a chance it might actually go into Imperial. With that being said, the first to click up to Imperial by far will be Barles, and he's gonna have quite a lot of elite longboats on the way. Jack, now that he has stabilized, it's gonna be fine, and look at this. Look at this from Valas. A 2-villager castle here on the stone mine, the wood line, and he could actually go for a run-by as well. Imperial Age soon coming in from Dziam, but what does that mean for him? He could go Cavalier, he could go Condottieri. Condottieri would actually be a very decent unit here as well for him, although he's got quite a lot of knights. There is some idle time once again on Valas' eco here, getting forced off the gold mine, and longboats are just so easy to microman. It's going to be tough for Jack to actually catch up with this army over here. Scale mail coming in, so it's gonna be Condottieri. Or honestly, this is the time for sergeants, and don't underestimate sergeants. They have awful mobility, but guess what? On this map, you don't need mobility. You need units that take down buildings, and sergeants have very good pierce armor. Sergeants have pretty decent anti-building attack if you actually go for the arson upgrade. So here it makes sense to go sergeants, because mobility is not what you need. What you need is brute force power that just takes down buildings. Valas actually is successful getting this castle up over here. With that, we're gonna have the docks up for Jack over here, but still nowhere close to Imperial. That's the problem that Jack is facing. His opponent is only 30 seconds away from him. Jack doesn't even have ballistics. A castle comes in here, probably for more docks from Barles, and he's getting an awful lot of longboats out now. I think that with this castle up, this is not going to be an engagement that Jack can take, and now the longboats will start showing why they are so strong. They will start chasing down those war galleys here. Defensive castle is coming up for Valas, but he's not going to be in Imperial, which means that this can be trapped down fairly easily over here. Knights are still running around, and there is an opening here on this stone mine, which would result in once again knights flooding into the base of Valas. Valas runs back to the TC, as he's gonna start making a run-by on the opponent's island. We'll have a siege workshop coming in as well. Guess what? Genoese crossbows eat a run-by, because a run-by is cav archer unit class, basically. And against any kind of cavalry unit, the Genoese crossbows will be pretty decent. Longboats will just melt those buildings really fast. There is gonna be scale mail as well for Barles, so you probably will go see berserks here now, as they will try to take this castle down. That's gonna be 2 castles for Barles and only 1 for Dziam. This is getting concerning for Dziam, because now there is 2 castles over here, and they also have the hill advantage. The knights will still have the ability to try and dive in and snipe traps, which is nice, but the berserks can do something similar as well. Although it is priority to take traps first and not berserks. Still, if this castle goes down from Dziam's team, I don't think they can actually climb back into this game, because they don't have water. And you see the green ping. This is the moment that they find out, oh shoot, we have a castle on our island, and there is actually a run-by coming our way with rams. Valas is gonna be forever castle, as we'll have a plate mail just now coming in. Castle still staying up over here, but this trap is actually dangerously weak, and you don't have anyone repairing it. The knight could finish off the trap. Oh my lord, that hurts so much. I feel like that's the end of the story for Dziam and Jack in this game, because now this landing is doing a lot more damage, and I feel like this is gonna be cleaned up. A TC goes up here for Dziam, so he can actually get some more villagers out here. He actually has 2 more traps out, so he actually just wants to clean up these castles and then, you know, secure this position so that he's able to drop another castle. Kind of random sergeants running through the map over here. You see, This would have been a plan. If you mass 20 sergeants here, they melt TCs. They have 7 pierce armor, so TCs don't really kill them. Run by over here, doing the work though. We'll have elite longboats just now in for Barles. Imperial Age on the way for Jack, as he will probably try to redock for fast fires, but that's going to be a challenge as well for him. He's gonna need a castle somewhere to do that. And you already have Vorgali's longboats locking down the shoreline. They just don't have any shoreline control. And with this castle going down for Dziam, I don't see any chance anymore for him. This TC is gonna go down as well in a matter of moments. So, really, at this point, the landing of Dziamdziak are gone, and their shoreline control is also gone as well. So, with that, we're gonna have Arambai just rampaging the eco of Dziam's team, and with that, I think this is over. Like, I genuinely believe this is over. In here, a couple of Cavalier are actually inside the base of Barles, but unless they kill an awful lot of villagers, well, they already killed quite a lot actually. Hold on for a moment. This shouldn't have done that much. This shouldn't have done this much. Like, it's 4 Cavaliers, man. You have Berserks, and obviously, even Berserks with Chieftains will struggle somewhat against Sicilian Cavalier. But this shouldn't have pushed you down to, like, 57 villagers. Still, now that it's cleaned up, so as bad as it looks like for Barles, it doesn't compensate for the fact that there is still 53 elite longboats on the field, and they're just going to absolutely annihilate the shoreline. And you see there's a Arambai running around as well, slowly killing villagers. Eco is still way better for Jack's team, and they do have Bracer coming in for Jack. I might have spoken too soon. I might have spoken too soon here, because that raid actually did quite a lot. And what I didn't actually take into account is that there's a pretty formidable fleet here for Jack here. Only 24 galleons, but that's a good start, especially considering that replenishing those ships will be very, very problematic for our yellow player right now. Only 63 eco isn't really ideal. This TC is gonna go down as well, so Jack and Dziam can say goodbye to their entire landing. So, with that, we're gonna have back docks over here for Dziam, and he doesn't really have the ship numbers, but as I said, this is why exactly you pick a civilization that is at least capable of going for okay post-imperial ships. You don't need something special, but you want at least fully upgraded galleon or potentially fast fires, because there's a chance even with landings that the games go to a stage where you will need ships, and that's exactly what we're witnessing over here. Galleon numbers dropping as well for Jack, as we apparently will have a couple of transports coming in from Valas, so he wants to transport those Arambai around. But as I said, Barles has a quite weak eco right now. He's slowly rebooming into this one. Onager for Valas. Onager, and that could be extremely good against Genoese crossbows like that. Castle being trapped down over here, and the Genoese crossbows, as I said, will just keep away the Arambai. Like, Genoese crossbows eat Arambai. However, Mangonels will eat the Genoese crossbows because they have a fairly low range. And oh boy, I did mention that Jack's eco is much better than Barles' eco. That might soon change. That might soon change, and indeed, you can think about cutting down the wood with onagers on Team Islands. That's a legitimate strategy. It's not a meme. Being able to take away 5-10,000 wood of your opponent with just a couple of onager shots is an extremely huge advantage. Right now, I think that the onagers are just serving the purpose of dealing with the Genoese crossbows. These docks will go down pretty fast. Shipwright actually will fail. And Barles is coming back to life with his eco. Ecos are now dead even between the two players, or two teams, but the army numbers or navy numbers are way better for Barles' team. That's the main problem that Dziam's team is facing. So let's see if there's actually gonna be some onager cuts in here. This dock is free, so you could trickle in a couple of knights into this part of the eco. Galleons are up, but no chemistry, for example, for Jack just yet, and he still wasn't able to get rid of that castle, and Arambai will now come in and start picking off villagers. Here's the Onager, but it's not really doing much right now. And Dziam is also dropping really badly in villagers. He's down to 82, which is the weakest eco now. Elite run by even for Valas. Here's the Onager. So I guess the Onager will just target the Genoese crossbows, even though I totally agree that you could just chop down trees over here. Gold mine is exposed here for Dziam, and you see that he's got 1 on gold. So as good as the raids were from our blue player inside Barles Eco, I feel like the problem now is that they have no tools to stop this. If they clean up the castle, there might be a small chance in a very, very long game. But you still gotta consider that right now Dziamdziak+JackK is actually super duper weak. Heated shot coming in here for Barles as well. So he wants to control this choke point here. Chemistry just now in for Jack. But they actually clap the fleet of Barles over here. Barles apparently stopped making ships for a while, made a transport, because he wants a landing with castles. He wants a landing with castles over here. Another castle coming in here. They're just not letting Dziam and Jack clean up that landing over here. Onager takes a shot on the Genoese crossbows. Needless to say, Onagers are amazing against Genoese crossbows. Fast fires joining the fun here to try and deal with the run-by. For now, still there is a couple of siege workshops here for Onagers. You can really just shoot these villagers and it will do collateral damage and take down the wood as well, but also kill the villagers. A doubt castle here on the right side. This castle has been stopped by the galleons, but the question is, are they seeing the other castle? They do. Jack sees the other castle. He could stop both of those castles if he actually sends some galleons over here. Castle at 65%, still not reacting to it. Now sending the galleons over there, so that should be another castle denied. Oh my lord, what a game this is. And now it is 45 galleons against 32 longboats. 2 castles denied. Those are gonna be... Wait! There is more! There is more on those castles, and it looks like Jack is not going to stop it. This could be a decider factor. This could be a decider thing that this castle goes up. This should have never gone up with 2 villagers remaining. Oh my lord. Now traps are being transported through with more villagers. Still, the galleons here are actually outnumbered. Fast fires need to join the party to soak up the damage. Castle goes up, Trap immediately starts shelling it. Onagers now moving in, could land a big shot on the villagers, but they will decide not to. Elite Longboat, no, it's Elite Berserk actually. Elite Longboat is already in. Elite Berserk just now coming in for Barles, so he wants to spam Berserks. 2 traps being set up as well. And once again, Dziam and Jack just struggle to clean up this landing so much. These longboats at the back of the eco also hurt quite badly for Dziam and Jack. Right now, Dziam is on 1 TC, by the way, 84 eco. He doesn't really have any army on the field, he's got 1 army. That's the problem, that Valas is actually contributing quite a lot with these Onagers, the run-by pushing, and he's still making stables. It is just not going to be possible for Dziam and Jack to clean this up. Now it's Berserks diving in on the traps. This game feels over now once again, because now it's traps shelling the TCs from multiple directions. Dziam is down to just 1 town center over here, with now Berserks running in. Soon there will be some late cav as well from our Burmese player. Huge Onager shot over here, another Onager shot could connect from our red player, but it looks like they're just running for safety. Mass migration coming in from Dziam, but on water. It's 39 elite longboats against 34. Now it's 39 galleons, but still, Onager missing the shot over here, and it's going to get taken down by the Gembos. Still, Jack and Dziam are trying. They know that this is a so important game, and imagine if this castle doesn't go up. This castle could have been stopped, and if that's the case, then it is over. Well, not over, but that landing would have probably been halted. Nice counterattack with the galleons over here, starting to kill some villagers from Valas, but that doesn't compensate for the fact that Dziam has lost a huge portion of his base. They lost gold control, they lost wood in the south, and if they actually lose that, they will just run out of resources. You see that they will soon start struggling for gold and wood. Now big longboat fight over here. 34 longboats against 27 galleons only, and more longboats are coming. I feel like that's the final fight of the game, because now this entire fleet goes down. Some of the galleons are actually focusing down the docks, which hurts quite heavily. So there's still 26 longboats here versus just 15 galleons. Military numbers are still fairly comparable, but it's not good enough when you have the opponent on your island with a landing, they actually have a full stack of elite longboats, and most importantly, trade will come in soon for Barles+Valas, whereas trade is just a distant dream for Dziamdziak+JackK. It looks like we're gonna have an arbalest tech from Jack. He stops making gembos, and he's gonna go and try and get to arbalest, but still, gold is just going to run out for our cold color team, and that could be the end of the story. Fast fires coming in now. They actually intercept a couple of ships, but the numbers are not really impressive. Unless you clean this landing up, there is no hope for Dziamdziak+JackK. Although, they will actually kill quite a lot of villagers here. On the shoreline, they actually sink the transport as well. So the water is not completely lost, the land is the problem. If this landing wasn't here, I would say there's a chance for Jack and Dziam, but with that landing there, it's still very, very problematic, because you just don't have this wood line over here, you don't have the gold income. Dziam is still going for fast fires. Over here, Treb's trying to shell these castles, but it's 3 castles on this island right now, and longboats will still melt those fast fires. So at the end of the day, it's still 36 longboats against 29 galleons. So with that, we are gonna have galleons coming in here to try and make some magic happen. Really, Jack is alright. Dziam is the one that is suffering from too much damage here, and he's not able to just come back into this one, so to say. And we're gonna have an onager, could land a big shot. Nice split over there from Jack, given the circumstances. And really, the micro actually here is very, very good from the poles. It's just a matter of this position for them in this game is awful. The fact that they have 3 castles on their island is just a disaster, and trade is already being set up. At some point, the Polish team is going to run out of gold. That being said, they will actually start denying the trade over here with the galleons, which is going to be an annoyance for Barles+Valas. And one thing is sure, if there is no trade for Barles+Valas, they will also run out of gold, and suddenly this might not be as bad of a situation as it is, because while Dziam and Jack are both going for navies, it is Valas spending his gold on land units, which means that navy-wise they might fall behind. It looks like the markets will be cancelled and rebuilt over here, but still, that will actually weaken the efficiency of the trade. Still, we are gonna have a huge amount of Arambai over here. Arambai Onager is a very, very scary unit comp to fight against. Nice bombard cannon shots over there from Jack, but loses the bombard cannons to the longboats. And just as much as the galleons are capable of denying the trade over there, the longboats are capable of spreading out and just denying all the wood income. Soon, Dziamdziak is gonna have wood control issues. You see that they're running out of resources really fast over here. In fact, now they have to take these wood lines. They have minutes left from this game if they're unable to clean this one up, but it seems nearly impossible to clean up 4 castles. Look at this. It's like, it's gonna be 10 stables worth of light cap production, and yeah, there is Genoese crossbows to kill them, but it's all about delay tactics right now. Because at this point, there is some sort of trade going for Barles+Valas. They will actually try to get a castle up, but indeed, I think this is the moment when Dziamdziak realize, look, we're not actually claiming our island back. And at the end of the day, I think the deciding moment was this castle being lost by Dziam. Because with that castle going down, there was no hope of this landing continuing. And the difference here was that Valas did an excellent job just keeping that landing alive. And keep this in the back of your mind. There was a 2-villager castle here on this stone at some point. 2-villager castle. Keep this in your mind. This castle went up with 2 villagers as well. So, at the end of the day, there were some small things that went well for Barces' team, and that was the one that pretty much finished the set for them. So it's a decider game coming in here. Barles+Valas versus Dziam and Jack over here. We'll have Cape of Storms as the other home map of Barles+Valas. Once again, the overlay feels a little off because it's not Team Acropolis that was won. So don't be misled by the fact it's Team Islands that was won by Barles+Valas. But let's just go into game number 3 and take a look at what's gonna happen on Cape of Storms. So, welcome to Dziam and Jack. On the right side, we're gonna have a code color for our blue player, Japanese flank for Jack. Right side is going to be Dziam as a God's Pocket. That's an interesting pocket civilization for this map, but not necessarily a bad decision. This map definitely offers a potentially good chance for booming as a pocket. Depends on how you actually wall yourself off, but especially with these forests in here, it technically is possible that Dziam makes walls like this, because this is not impossible to do, and then Jack makes walls like this. We have seen teams trying to make walls like this happen. And the idea would be that you have a Gothic pocket that booms, and then you just unleash the flood of infantry, I would assume. Whereas the Japanese player has tanky fishing ships. There is probably gonna be fishing involved in here. Oh, look at that wholesome patch of aggressive herdables. It is possible that they messed up the civilizations, I'm not sure. It is actually fixed position, so they can choose which player is which position. But it could have been also possible that gods go aggressive and just go lame, and then the Japanese does the fish boom at the back. I don't really know if that was the plan or not. Other side is going to be Bulgarians for Valas in red, so an early man-at-arms civilization over here, and Lithuanians for Bars in yellow for what could be a fast dock play for him. You already see the Voyager moving forward, dropping the dock over here. With that being said, I'm just noticing that these boards are actually pretty far away from the TCs of our red and yellow players. One of these rhinos belongs to a red player, the other one belongs to a yellow player, but they're both pretty far out. Also worth noting that Valas' two gold spots are super close to each other, which means that it's very, very easy to deny both of them if there is early pressure applied. With that being said, it looks like we have no laming Voyager coming in for our green player. So it just seems like we'll just have a boom from our Gothic player. Let's see if we have a dock or not. There is 4 on wood, so there is a chance this Voyager goes for a dock and then there will be a 5th on wood. But there's a loom coming in as well. That's an early loom for our green player. And it's going to be 5 on wood, so there will be fish added here by the Gothic player. And I would think it's just going to be a boom. So, with that, 2 scouts being teamed up here by Dziam and Jack. They might actually try to look for example, a fishing Voyager. There will only be 1 dock from Bars' team. So, with that, we'll have a dock with a very, very nice deep fish over here. On the other side, we'll have a ostrich being pushed here by Bars. Nice little touch, but honestly, he doesn't really need it. He has 3 huntables, although technically, it helps because you can actually save those elephants or boars for a later. Second boar just now coming in for Valas, as he's sending out Voyagers as well for the hunt. This is interesting though. I'm not sure if you really need this. You can take the 3rd boar if you really want to have some more huntables working for you. I mean, I understand the point, especially if you go for mill. On this map, there is no berries, which means that you normally don't build a mill in Feudal or Dark Age. If you go for Lumber Camp Dock, then you don't need a mill immediately, and you will just age up with those buildings. But if you go for land aggression, like we're seeing for Valas, with probably fast men-at-arms, you see the barracks already coming in here for him, probably 20 pop-ish men-at-arms, although it looks like it's gonna be 21 pop. So, if you actually go for land aggression and you don't have a dock, you will go for... oh, this could be a Voyager that gets denied. Loom is now in, but the Voyager took some damage, so she's gonna run back home. Oh, no, Loom is not in yet. So, at the end of the day, this board is gonna be denied. But the idea is that the deer, you will need a mill if you don't go for a dock, and the best place to place a mill at is on the huntables. Can you drop off the food from the deer at the dock? Not directly. You can drop off the food from the mill or from the deer at a dock. What you can do is gather food from the deer and then send your Voyager to Shorefish, because the game doesn't distinguish between different food sources when it comes to the Voyager carrying food. So if you gather 35 food with your Voyager on hunt, and then you send it to Shorefish, the game is going to think, okay, the Voyager's hands are full, so it's going to drop off the food at the dock, because the game believes it comes from Shorefish. It's a nice Lego setting over here. Anyways, 2 scouts can team up on a Voyager, so that is definitely a possibility to take one down. Let's take a look at Dziam. He is going to field over here, but this seems like just a scout's play. That's just a scout's play from him. He actually went for all 3 of his boars, apparently. Same for Jack over here. Jack is gonna have some fishing eco working for him, same for Dziam, so at the end they do have a 3 Voyagers lead already. Fast Man-at-Arms is in. We'll have Japanese Man-at-Arms to compensate for this one, so I think this is a good scenario still for Jack. Obviously his Man-at-Arms are gonna be later, but unless you die to the first 3 Man-at-Arms, the quality of the Man-at-Arms will actually be better for our blue player. So, with that, we're gonna have 3 Men-at-Arms out for Jack. Let's see if he adds a 4th one. You could consider adding a 4th one, but for now you want the Men-at-Arms upgrade yourself. Quick wars happening right now. And the wars are up for Dziam and Jack. So, with that, there's going to be a range. And when ranges come up, the Man-at-Arms will start becoming very, very obsolete. It looks like there will be 4th Man-at-Arms being added in this party as well. Man-at-Arms from our Japanese player almost in here as well. Let's see if he adds a 4th one or not. I don't think that he should, because one of those Man-at-Arms is already weakened. He's got Japanese, which attack a little faster. This should be a relatively easy cleanup for our blue player, and indeed, that's a very, very nice cleanup. Didn't lose a single Man-at-Arms. They trade off 1 scout to 3 Man-at-Arms essentially, so being able to keep those 3 Man-at-Arms is nice. And now the Bulgarians struggle a tiny bit with the follow-up for the Man-at-Arms. Usually it's Man-at-Arms scouts with Bulgarians. We have a fairly big fish boom over here for Barles, 3 docks even for him. I feel like 3 docks might have been a bit of an overinvestment, because I don't think that you need to spam fishing ships like that. Still, that fishing eco is going to kick in over there. And with that, we will have just 3 fishing ships for both our blue and green players. It looks like Jack is just going to play defensive on this one, goes for his own defensive fire galleys. There will be more coming from Barles, so this is the tricky thing. Jack actually is forced to make archers, and he's forced to make fire galleys. So we're gonna have some scouts coming in from Dziam, but this is always a tricky map, because balancing your land and water spending is always hard, and one thing that you have to notice is that Barles going for water means that he doesn't really have defense back at home, and with that, the scouts could be hitting Barles' wood line over here. Men-at-Arms lurking around the base of Valas. They are even happy to take down Spearmen here, because that helps the teammate. And indeed, here come the scouts picking off a couple of villagers. It's gonna end up being 1 kill, but quite a lot of idle time. So really, balancing your land and water spendings are actually pretty challenging in this one. And I think that Jack and Dziam are playing this one slightly better, because you see that Barles and Valas are somewhat struggling against the land aggression. Now the scouts will actually hit the back of this wood line, with the spearmen gone. The spearmen were taken down by the Men-at-Arms, and Voyager's already chasing archers. It looks like we're getting closer and closer to game number 4, because this is looking extremely good for Dziam and Jack. So there's gonna be defensive skirms now, but the idle time is already fairly big. That being said, Barles is still having a crazy fish boom at the back of his base, and that shouldn't really be overlooked. So sure, Dziam and Jack has fishing eco, but it's only 6 fishing ships combined, whereas Barles alone has 9. Still, now there is no more fire galleys from Jack over here, so these fire galleys could actually hit our Gothic player. Still, if the game goes very long, Gods obviously will be an excellent civilization on this map, and another Voyager goes down from Valas. I think the biggest problem here for Barles and Valas will be that Valas is just so dead. That being said, Valas is somewhat dead, but his teammate Barles is going up into Castle Age. And first to Castle Age with Knights could be extremely devastating, especially if you go for a fast monastery and you pick up the relics. And remember that all the relics are always here in this Baobab forest. so it's fairly easy to find them for a Lithuanian player. Once again, Valas is sort of being the punching bag here, but behind this one, Barles is booming like crazy, and soon he's going to unleash the knights. If you are Jack and Dziam, you will also have to go for Castle Age soon. Dziam is actually getting close to clicking up, and you have to start adding either Walls or Spearmen. Even just a couple of Japanese Spearmen will help slow down those knights quite considerably, and you see that right upon hitting Castle Age, they will head towards Barles, so at least he has to chase. That's a good way of delaying the opponent's cavalry push. What you have to do is just run around with your scouts and force your opponent to chase. Because if he's chasing you, he can't counterattack. And that's an extremely important difference here, that he just needs to run around and chase. The early knights can be delayed by a minute or so with that. Scouts will not beat a knight, like, a knight just laughs at scouts. Scouts can't do anything against a knight, and they shouldn't even try. That's awful for Dziam. That's awful. Look at this, one knight is cleaning up all those scouts, and even though those scouts don't really have great upgrades, but still, you need to use your mobility with the scouts and just make sure that you delay those knights as much as possible. You see that Valas isn't really thriving necessarily, so he just rushed up a market with like 10 villagers. Castle Age on the way for Dziam, and he's probably gonna go for knights as well. Double stables coming in. I like the Spearman addition. That's exactly what he has to do. Just go for mass Spearman. That slows down the knights early on, and that's all you need. And the alternative should have been that indeed you just use your 6, 7, 8 scouts to keep raiding the opponent, because it once again slows down Barles. That being said, Barles at 45 eco. There's 46 as well for Jack, but he hasn't reached Castle Age yet. And it looks like now Barles secures water, which means that he's gonna have an untouched fish boom worth 13 fishing ships. That's actually crazy. 13 fishing ships is quite brutal over here. Now you see the walls coming in here from Dziam. Knights might run into the Spearmen over here. That's quite a lot of spears. No upgrades on them just yet. Forging coming in. Makes sense to go for Forging first instead of Cavalry Armor, because it's probably going to be Knights versus Knights, and your Spearmen also benefit from Forging over here. So, with that, early Knights are still going down here. They do have +2 defense, which is fairly decent. These Vultures are somewhat exposed. Nice quick walls over there. As another Spearman comes in. This is exactly the thing to do. Feels weird, and Spearmen aren't amazing against Knights, but it slows down the Knights, and that's exactly the time you need to get up to Castle Age yourself, and just get a couple of Knights yourself as well. So, with that, we're gonna have the scouts being cleaned up over here, as Gilnet is coming in from our yellow player. So really, Barles is going for... How many fishing ships is that? 13 fishing ships, and he's adding more docks. I like the more docks addition, and you also gotta consider that Valas is adding fishing ships as well. So soon, their eco, in fact, their eco is already much better than their opponent's eco. Look at this. Valas is back, man. Valas is back. So, there is already 7 fishing ships for him. He's going up to Castle Age. We already have 2 Castle Age players, though, from Jack and Dziam. And that's quite a lot of crossbows. And those crossbows will be very scary in a couple of moments. Knights doing some raiding over here. But at this point, what you have to do if you're Dziam is just make sure that your knights can actually track the opponent's knights and just clean them up as much as possible, and head on with the direct push crossbows in this. So, with that, we're gonna have crossbows coming in, and Valas will be forced to do a mass migration. Remember what I said about the gold mine at the beginning. It is going to be super duper omega exposed. So with that, it's going to be stable number 3, and one thing that you have to consider, as I said, is the early monastery for Lithuanians. 2 relics are very easy to pick up, a 3rd one is fairly accessible, and the 4th one could be doable as well. Still, Valas now is dying. Valas is dying, and even though they do have fishing eco, in fact it's a crazy fishing eco from Valas, they secure water, and Valas had 13 fishing eco as well. That's how they're leading in eco still. And I like that they won water and they actually capitalize on it. They don't just say, okay, I have 3 fishing ships, that's it. They actually say, okay, We want 20 fishing ships and we want to have a crazy fish boom. Look at that, Valas is actually not far away from Imperial Age ClickUp here. That's an insane eco from him, mostly fueled by fishing. That being said, Jack still has quite a lot of crossbows over here on the field, but this isn't looking that great for Dziamdziak anymore. Because even though Valas is suffering from massive land raids, the fishing eco for Valas is crazy. And then now the question is what is exactly he's doing unit composition wise, because the Lithuanian player goes for Cavalier. What is Dziam gonna go for, or what is Valas gonna go for? He can go archers because he's Bulgarians. That raises big questions. Here come the Lithuanian Knights with +3 already. Couple of spearmen in, and I feel like this fight has to be extremely good for Jack and Dziam if they want to have anything going for them, but it seems like it won't. And the Knights get a good surround. This house also sort of traps the crossbows in here, and that is a cleanup. That is a big cleanup. And even though there is Knights from Dziam, as I said, if you look at the overall ecos, this is getting worse and worse for Jack and Dziam, and we could be in for a 3-0 here for Barles and Valas. With that, we're gonna have 2 TCs right now for Valas, 2 TCs as well for Barles, second TC just now coming in for Dziam, and only 1 TC for Jack. As I said, this map, it's so tricky to balance your water and land spendings. If you overinvest into water, you will just die on land. But in this case, I feel like it was a fairly good balance for Barles and Valas, and they really capitalize on water. At the end of the day, if you look at the fishing ecos, Barles has 20 fishing ships, his teammate Valas has 13, and that's the reason why they're leading. You see that there is like an 18 villagers lead. That mainly comes from the fact that they lost more villagers, but they have 33 fishing ships. So if those fishing ships weren't there, they would be pretty much dead by now. But now, it is a crazy fish boom from them. A part of an eco that can be put completely untouched. And the Lithuanian player keeps collecting relics. That's also something to keep in mind. There is already 3 relics coming in a matter of moments. So it's gonna be 2 in the monastery, the third one just now coming in. And the Knights will actually start jumping on the top of our green player's eco from the north. We're gonna have this wood line very exposed. And really, at this stage, I can see our yellow player collecting all 5 relics, to be honest. Because he's bringing in relic number 3, and this is takeable. Wait, maybe this one. Not this one. I didn't say this, but still, 4 relics should be guaranteed for a yellow player currently. They have ultimate water control. Nice thing from Jack to have a little bit of a sneaky fishing eco here at the back. That helps quite a bit. So he's 66 eco, just as good as Valas. Prey posts now coming in for Valas. Really, the unit composition for him is actually somewhat wacky, but at this point he can just sit back and say, okay, whatever, I'm gonna let the Lithuanian player carry this one. Or Bulgarian cav archers, indeed, Bulgarian cav archers would be a good idea, because you don't have good foot archers, but cav archers can be a more than legitimate solution to many problems. And now it's Knights left and right, as the pocket player being 40 villagers against the other pocket being 80, is an extremely disastrous scenario. There is a hole here that the Knights will just run past, but these Knights now have +5, and that's going to soon turn into +6. There is a monk probably coming for this relic over here. So at this very moment, it seems like Barles and Valas will head to the main event of Tupos, because currently Valas' army isn't really good enough, but it doesn't even have to be amazing when it comes to a fully boomed Lithuanian player with 4 relics very soon. Dziam and Jack call the GG. And with that, Barles and Valas are the teams, is the final team in the main event of Tupos 2. So what I wanted to show real quick is just this one, the ecos. Barles 24k resources, Valas 16k, but that's still just as good as Dziam's eco. But really, if you look at the overall population share, it just shows that Barles' fishing eco was never really punished. It's tricky because if he actually got pushed earlier on land, he could have been in trouble. Because in that case, he doesn't have a defense back at home, and he could have just been overrun by scouts. But that didn't happen, and that means that at the end, Barles and Valas win this game as well. There were some close games. but Barles+Valas overall had a firm control over the series. And with that, and game number 3 done, we are gonna have Barles+Valas getting into the main event of 2 pose 2.